Life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change. At Virginia College, your success is our focus. We offer career training designed to fit your today and change your tomorrow. Many of our programs can be completed in as little as 9 months. So before you know it, you could have a new career and a better life. Virginia College. Career training designed for you. Find out more at vc.edu. Learn at the speed of life.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hey, Jamie, it's me, Jamie. This is your daily pep talk. I know it's been rough going ever since people found out about your a cappella group, Mad Harmony, but you will bounce back. I mean, you're the guy always helping people find coverage options with the Name Your Price tool. It should be you giving me the pep talk. Now get out there, hit that high note, and take Mad Harmony all the way to nationals this year! Sorry, it's pitchy.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
And that way they can understand exactly who I'm talking to. Who is Joe Montaldo?
Okay, well, I am a crazy guy who somewhere around 34, 35 years ago was talking to a friend of mine who said, you know, I was abducted by aliens. And I went, sure you were, man. Come on, you lying to me. What the hell are you talking about? You was abducted by aliens? Ain't no such things. And he's going on and on and on about it. And I didn't think nothing about it. And I had joined the Navy, and while I was in the Navy, I got a couple of degrees in advanced avionics and electronics. And, you know, talking to pilots a lot of times, they would tell you what they would see. And man, I mean, here I am, 18 years old. They're telling me about these different things they seen flying around the sky, stuff basically that they don't even know, you know, what the hell it could possibly be. Things they're being told to report. So I got kind of an interest in it. But then it wasn't a big enough interest that, you know, it was a driving factor yet. I got discharged. I get home. Well, I wasn't discharged, but I was in the reserve. I get home, run into a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine who's doing really good in life, and she's making big money. She's high up in a position, and in politics, no less. And she said, I want to ask you something. And she said, I know you're going to think I'm blanking crazy, but I want to ask you anyway. So I said, okay, what is it? She goes, well, she said, I heard you one time talking to Mike about aliens. I said, yeah, we were just talking about some people who had told me they had been abducted by aliens and had this, that, and the other thing done to them. And she goes, well, I think that's what happened to me. And I looked up at her and I said, you know, I ain't going to say what I said to her, but I was like, you're blanking kidding me, right? I mean, come on. I said, you're just messing with me because you had heard that. And she's like, no, I'm really serious. So I thought about it and let it go for a couple of days. And I called her and I said, are you serious? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And then I'm looking it up, just, you know, what you could find back then. It was a long time. There was no internet like we have today. So I'm going to local libraries and stuff. And then out of the blue, my wife decides to tell me about something that happened to her when she was a kid and their family was stationed in Washington. And I'm like, you could have told me this before I married you, crazy woman. And so I'm thinking now these three are really important people. All of them have something to lose by coming forward with this. So I'm kind of trying to figure out why. I said, if it's a prank, it's going to hurt them. I mean, really and truly, it's going to hurt them bad. And I kept thinking, why would they do this? Why would they do this? So I started looking into it more, and it seemed like the more I looked, the more random cases I would bump into. It was almost like someone was directing people towards me. And I even still think it works that way today, to be honest with you. But I started meeting these people and talking to them, and more of these people, you know, these weren't people, some crazy person that was, you know, living in a trailer who believed that, you know, the government was doing this, that, or the other thing. These were just respectable, everyday people, businessmen, businesswomen, doctors, lawyers, politicians, policemen, firemen. You know, it's like, what the hell? Nurses. And I'm thinking, you know, prisoners. I mean, even met a couple who were in jail. That it actually happened to them when they were in jail. So I was kind of like what? That's well, they can't all be crazy. So then I started thinking, I ran into someone who told me about, well, we had looked into some hypnotic suggestion stuff, but then we figured they couldn't all ran across the same person or the same routine. So then we started looking at different things like sleep paralysis and stuff like that. But none of that really made any sense. So I called a friend of mine. I said, you ought to join MUFON. I'm like, MUF what? I said, MUF a lot. I said, no, man, I ain't know that. So anyway, we joined MUFON, went to work for Walt Anderson a long time ago, and really started learning a lot of stuff, started seeing all kind of things. And somewhere along the line, we decided to do an abduction study from all the people we had. And it was quite a few people we had. They weren't all MUFON people, nothing, but it was just people we had randomly met or had been associated with the organization or other things that we had ran across at the time. It was about about right at 5,000 people. We did that, and I had talked to a bunch of people at MUFON about it, and we kept it as an abduction criteria, is what we did. And all of a sudden, MUFON just became like the black hole of Calcutta.
Right.
I mean, and they still are. I mean, I heard someone the other night, I'm going to mention the lady's name who works for him, saying that she's trying to bring credibility back to him. Shit, girl, you did more damage than you did good. MUFON's in trouble. I mean, I don't know what it is that's going to bring them credibility today. It's sure not going to be the things I heard on last night's radio or the night before radio show. That's not going to bring them credibility. The biggest problem is they just don't have credible people, and they've got a lot of dirty laundry in their past. And the real problem with that is, you can say you're going to bring credibility to MUFON, but if you don't get rid of the board, you can't. John Solutions black out half the people in the organization in some way, or some sort of fashion were attached to something black ops. I mean, hell, 4 out of their 5 leaders were. So you just got to kind of wonder what the hell's going on. So I said, okay, you know what? I said, I'm out of here. I said, I'll just go do something. I'll go mess around with something. And I'm still doing some research and running across people. And the internet had just started to pick up a little bit. And I was in a damn chat room, and I met this guy named Ariel St. Sinclair. And he was telling me about the Greys and all these things they were doing to him. And the dude was nuts. I ain't even lying. The dude was nuts. Whether he was an abductee or not, I still to this day don't know, but he was nuts. But it was because of the craziness he was saying made me start looking for people like-minded. We started a little chat room turned into a big chat room turned into ICAR. ICAR turned into now the largest UFO abduction organization on the planet with more than 50,000 members. And the best part is we were just featured on Ancient Aliens last year. So, I'm sorry, no, a year before last time. Man, time flies. It's episode 14, The Return. And no, I didn't look like this when I was on it, guys. You couldn't see no hair, no hat, no beard. Sorry, it's just a different person.
Now, what season was that, Joe? Because I'm going to have to look that up, man, because I never knew that.
Yes, it was not last season, season before.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to have to look that up. So you believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, based on everything that you've researched, everything that you've seen personally, that aliens have visited and may still be visiting this planet?
Oh yeah, they've been. See, the problem with this is they've been here a long time, man. I mean, way longer than any of us want to admit to. When it comes right down to it, they really felt like whatever they were originally here for, which probably had anything to even do with us. It was probably something entirely different. Whatever it was that originally brought them here, they've been here a long time. I mean, it looks like the reptilians were here back when the dinosaurs were here, and then whenever the catastrophic event happened on the planet, it looks like they left for a while. And then somewhere along the line, they came back, found the human aliens, and said, what the hell's going on? But just too many weird things. I mean, what I was on Ancient Aliens for was for the blood type study. I just finished a blood type study. About 76,000 people 76,000 contactees had participated in it. Through the website, through the contactees, through people just contacting us, through the different, we have like 15 different projects running, from things like the reptilian study, the gray study, the human study, what types of jobs people who say they've been abducted have, just all kind of studies, just because we're just looking, for information in masses. But that's what they contacted me for, to come on and talk about the blood type study. And it's interesting because it shows they have a particular interest in particular types of blood. It shows they've been here a long time. It also showed us that, weird thing is, most people don't realize this, but Rh negative only showed up about 25,000 years ago. Before that, everybody was positive. Everybody. There was no Rh negative people. And
I am A negative. I found that out because I had to go through surgery, so I got to find out what my blood was. I'm A negative. And my whole family is. My mom, my sister, my niece. What is it about that blood? I mean, what's going on with that?
Well, we don't really know. I mean, we got some ideas, but they had a couple of groups come out with little studies of 1,000, 2,000 people trying to say, oh, no, the Rh negative isn't right. I told them, any place, anywhere you want to debate this, I got the evidence. We'll debate it anywhere publicly you want to, because with the size of study we've done, there is no arguments about it. They're definitely, out of all the abductees that have taken the thing, about 63 to 65% of them are Rh negative. Out of that, half of them are O negative. But it's interesting to see that only about 30% of the abductees are positive blood types. Now remember, positives make up 85% of the people in the world. Only 15% of the people in the world are Rh negative. The other 85% are positive. So it's kind of strange that the majority of contactees being taken are the opposite. They're Rh negative. They seem to have introduced this blood to us sometime in the past, and they seem to have an interest in where it's taken us. And it is different because, first off, RH stands for the rhesus monkey. So if you're a positive, you share common genes with the rhesus monkey. If you're negative, you don't. There is no, in the RH negative people don't have that commonality with the rhesus monkey. It's something different. It's got a little strange the way this worked out. Also, RH negative is the purest form of blood known to man. Actually, O negative is. O negative is also the universal donor. Anybody can take O negative, and O negative can only take O negative. So when you hear people say, I'm A or B and my blood's really red, that's true. But when you're RH negative, see, y'all can still take O negative blood, even if you've got a rare blood like AB or BA, AB or positive or negative, you can still take it. Wait, not if you're positive, sorry. But you can still take it. It's a universal donor. That's what it's there for. It's there, and what? So somebody said, oh, you know what? Man's fixing to get in some really nasty wars, World War I, World War II. We need some universal donor blood. So somebody just invented it. It's just, I mean, humans were here for 2 million years and maybe 4 million years and never had it. And this is a mutation. It's not just that. You'll find out that a lot of the contactees and abductees are either blue-eyed or green-eyed, which combined, they only make up 4% of the world's eye colors. So it seems like it's the mutations that's the interesting part, because O negative is a mutation. Blue and green eyes are both mutations. So there's something they're doing somehow or another. And we don't have to say it's alien. We can say it's anything, but the fact that man and science hasn't gone deeper in this is kind of scary. We used 3 different hematologists for the blood type study, by the way. Most of them didn't want their names mentioned, even though they did let us use their work in their maps, which was nice of them. Most of them didn't want their names mentioned, but one of them, the ones listed on the sites, did. And they went through, because we found out weird things like, when you look around the world, you'll see, like in America, O positive, 37%, B, O negative, whatever percent, but the percents are like they're supposed to be around the world. But then all of a sudden, here's South America and Central America. It's 97% O. It's just everybody's like, what? It's just a freak. Yeah, so it's those families. Even though we know that the Spanish came over and interbred with them somehow or another, they still stay to that side. It's just strange the things you learn when you get into this stuff. And it does seem it makes a difference in who we are and what we are. And almost every major thing we've learned about blood came from O negative. So it's
what that means. Like, did they put that blood in us? Did they create certain people? And then, the people just, multiplied as time went on, or what? I don't know. That's very interesting.
It could be. So you figure A could be your human type aliens, B could be your reptilians, and O could be your grays. And somewhere the grays said, well, you know what? Since we're going to introduce the latest new blood type to humans, we might as well give them some RH negative to go along with it. It's speculation. Just something that's just speculation, but it's just one of them things that we just don't know. All we know is they seem to have an interest in this. There seems to be some correlation between abductions and blood types. There seems to be, even when it comes to eye colors and stuff. And what's weird about this is something for all y'all to go look up. You'll notice something about people with RH negative bloods. You'll look at the type of careers they get into. Yeah, they actually have a lot of things in common. It's a very strange thing. I didn't realize it until I got into it. Well, I never believed it, that you could see types of personality through blood types, or even RH or positives. And you can. It's strange to see. But there's similarities between them. So, we learned a lot from the study. Not what we were hoping to learn, like why in hell are they so interested in this? Or maybe we're some kind of donors for them. Maybe that's why they abduct people now. Maybe they introduced the RH negative into our population. Now it's 15% of our population. Now maybe they're starting to harvest whatever they introduce. There's no real way of knowing. I mean, we do what we call blind questions. We'll take 40 or 50 contactees, sometimes 25, just to see who's available. And I'll send them a question, or sometimes somebody else in the organization will. They'll send them a question. Nobody's told what the question is. And all we do is we ask them to start every night before they go to bed, or when they're traveling or doing whatever, just to repeat the question in their head over and over and over and over. Because as soon as they're picked up, when that person sees the alien, when they look up and they see the alien, the first thing they're going to do is think about that damn question, and it's going to go right into their head. And then a lot of times the alien will respond without thinking about it. You get a lot of answers like it, and what's nice about it, by making it a blind study and sending out the question to that many people, when you get answers back, 30, 40, 50 people answer you the same way, you know it's a real answer, because they don't know what the questions are, and they don't even know who's been called and who's not been called. It's just simply a blind study, and it makes it hard to argue with the results. Either that, or they're all damn psychic, which they might be too.
Right. I wanted to ask you this, Joe. Or I should say, how many races of aliens do you think are actually visiting Earth or have visited Earth? And do you think they all have separate agendas or maybe the same agenda? What do you think when it comes to that?
Well, you know what I tell people when it comes to this? Why don't we use the ancient history? First is the map of the Creator. You can find it in the Pravda section in one of the Russian papers. This was a map that was found. It dates back 120 million years. This is a fact. That's how far it dates back. So here you got this map, and this was a cover stone found in a valley. What this is, it's a picture it's an aerial picture. It's a resource map of a valley. It shows where the food is and other things are stored. Now, this was taken from an altitude, probably most people guessed about 3,000 or 4,000 feet by the way the map was drawn. So something 120 million years ago made a map and left it on our planet. Okay. As far as I know, there was no humans running around the planet 120 million years ago. Doesn't mean there weren't reptilians or some other race visiting or even inhabitable here. People always want to say nothing intelligent evolved in the reptilian period, but we don't know that. I mean, our era was only 63 million since the dinosaurs went extinct, and here we are. We're proof that something can develop in 50 or 60 million years. So you had 300 million years of the dinosaurs. Saying something intelligent didn't evolve and even grow and become something else is just a little bit egotistical on our part. Whether they were here as visitors from another world, maybe it was from the Draco system and they just came here because they found the planet really nice. Regardless of what it is, they were here. Then they left, and now they're back. And as far as how many races here, you know, first time I met Stephen Greer, he told me 56 species. I said, oh, I need proof of that. And he said, oh, this person will tell you. I said, no. I said, I need proof. I said, I need something tangible. I said, first off, Stephen, I said, do you know how many different UFOs that would be? I said, considering that there's probably 4 or 5 different types for each race, and you're telling me 56 races. I said, dude, there's just not that much kind of stuff flying around here. Oh, it's a Stargate. I said, yeah, I knew that was coming, but I don't think that's what it is either. I said, and then it's trying to keep that all secret. I said, now all 56 races look like us, or maybe not. But from what we've seen so far, the 4 or 5 races that we know are visiting the planet don't look like us. Even the human aliens don't look like us. They're bigger than we are. They have different heads than we are. They have more digits than we do. They have eyes and colors are different than ours are. They're human appearance because they got 2 hands, 2 feet, and a nose and eyes and a mouth. Other than that, so you call them bipeds. I mean, even the reptilians are basically what we are, just a much older, much more advanced race. And then the Greys, you know, that's another thing. See, this is how them old tales get started. So everybody tells me, oh, the Greys work for the reptilians, the Greys work for the humans, the Greys work for this one, the Greys work for that one. They just a little slave race. Then we find out that's not even close to the truth. First off, we know there's little 3-foot Greys. We know there's 5-foot Greys. We know there's 7-foot Greys. We know the Queen's around 9 feet. We know all the other races, except for maybe light beings, are scared of them. In every case when we've got contactees present, when the Greys come in, especially the 5, 6, or 7-foot ones, they tell you that the human aliens, the human beings working there, like in military facilities, or the reptilians will either put their heads down, turn around, or walk away. Wow. Right off the bat. So it tells you who's the most prominent. And of all the mid-lab abductions we get, Greys are the most prominent ones we hear about going and taking their people from the government. They're like, yeah, that's not going. So we get a lot of these cases, and you got to remember, I got a segue. Do you know who Heather Wade is? Yeah, have you ever listened to Midnight in the Desert? She's a friend of ours.
Wow, that's just amazing stuff. Do you believe that our government actually is maybe in contact with extraterrestrials, or do you believe that they kind of keep to themselves, even away from our government?
Well, a lot of people want you to think that the government knows everything. I'll tell you how you know the government don't know everything. My show has been bugged since the day I put it on the air 18 years ago. It's never going on the air when the open line light wasn't on. For that matter, for almost every host that I have on the network, it's never going on without that open line light being on. So you can pretty much guarantee they're listening to us. I mean, we've had in the middle of shows, you hear them stop, the thing will click, all of a sudden you hear them talking. Well, Joe, you said it was okay just any time to break in and ask a question, and boom, no calling, no nothing. They're just on the line with you. You're like, what the hell? I mean, we've had them come to places. We've had them threaten people. I've been threatened maybe 3 times. Most of the time, they don't threaten me, though. Most of the time, it's more like, look, we're cool with what you're doing. We like where you're moving with this. The only time that really ever got mad at me is it's Alfred and I got into a really deep discussion about alien agendas one night, and they showed up at one of my job sites. I had a big crew out there, too, so I was surprised they showed up. And they showed up at a job site. So, I mean, they showed up. I'm on a roof with 20 guys. I hate 20 roofing guys, okay? Everybody's up there at the middle of the day. I look down. There's a white SUV with black tinted windows. 2 doors open up. These guys get out, look like gray Armani suits. Looks something straight out of Men in Black, but instead of black, they were in gray, with these reflective glasses on. And the guy's looking at us on the roof. And I'm looking at him. He's looking at us. All of a sudden, I see his finger go up, and he starts like, come here. So I'm looking at the guys. I say, okay, who's in trouble with the feds? Because obviously he's the feds. So I'm like, who's in trouble with the feds? He's like, So I look down at the guy and I go, I put my hands up and he points right at me and he goes, I'm like, oh, shit. So I go down the ladder. I walk over there. I walk up right as I'm about 15 feet from the guy's truck. He takes one finger, unbuttons his jacket, lifts it back over and puts it over where I can see his 9mm. It was probably a 45. Might have been a 9. Either one. It's close. He just puts it over there. He just tells me, he goes, look, we're happy with what you're doing. He said, you're doing the right thing, you assimilate information right, and people are getting educated. We don't have a problem with that. And that's what he told me. He said, but the alien agenda is off limits for now. And I looked up at him. I'm like, I just wanted to be like, what in the fuck are you talking about, dude? And then he proceeds to tell me, he said, you drive a lot, man. He said, Ray could just run you off the road. I mean, he's basically telling me, then he tells me where my wife's at, what she's doing, where my kid's at, what he's doing. And then to drive it home 3 days later, I'm at the doctor's office, I get a phone call. He said, this is just a reminder, Joe. You're sitting there. He told me what I was wearing. He even told me what my glasses looked like, told me what I was driving, told me where my wife is, where my kid was, where my mother was. I was like, he said, you see what I mean? So that was pretty much the end of that conversation. So for about 5 years, I didn't talk about the alien agenda.
Does that make you ever say, you know what, maybe I'm going too far, I'm getting too close to something, maybe I should back off? Or did this kind of propel you even further to motivate you to go? Well, you see,
for me, it motivated me because, one, they said, look, no, we're good with what you're doing here. It's just this part. Leave this part alone. He said, look, we feed you information from time to time. He said, some of these stuff is just falling out the sky. And he's right. Like with one of the senators I got in touch with who had gotten in touch with me over the Arizona sighting, he dropped a whole vanilla envelope in my hand, pretty much telling me what the hell was going on out there. So, I mean, the information like that, you just don't want to take the chance of upsetting anybody, so you want to keep it. But these guys will help them when they can. But in return, they just wanted me to leave this alone. So I left it on. And then I remembered, it was about 4 years, I was on the line with Daryl Sims. And a guy calls in. And he said, okay, that part is done. You can talk about that anytime you want now. We appreciate you shutting up. And hung up. I was like, and my producer's going, what? Charlie, that was a spook. I'm like, it probably was, man. I said, but maybe it was for Daryl. Maybe he was talking to Daryl. He might not have been talking to me. But for some reason, I would get on with Alfred a lot of times. They'd love to screw around when I'm on the phone with Alfred Weber. And I don't know why. They just and if we get into two certain topics about alien abduction, they're still kind of, because we do run a lot of studies. And as far as I know, even today, even with some of the organizations following us, because there's been some organizations where some of our members and even some of our ex-members have tried to follow in our footsteps. They just can't seem to get the contactee trust they need.
Right.
But they, even they're looking for the information. There's way more contactees out there than people think there is. When we talk to other abduction researchers, most people say 10 to 15%. Well, I was on the phone with Alfred Weber one night, and he was interviewing me, and I said, he said, what do you think? I said 10, 15%. Well, Alfred, this guy was a science advisor for the president, so he's like, hold on, 1.5 billion, what? Well, he said 1 billion, that's what he said.
Right.
Man, look, I had people calling me for weeks. Plus, some Australian science magazine did a whole freaking magazine on me about I was crazy and this, that, and the other thing. So I called the magazine up and I said, do I get a rebuttal? And they're like, well, I said, come on, do I get a rebuttal? So they let me do a rebuttal. I ripped them suckers apart, gave them all kind of evidence. They just dropped it after that. It was, but still, it was crazy when you actually stop and think. Now, I doubt they're taking 1 billion people at a time, but I have no doubt that particular number is probably what's been taken. They've got a long-term progress. And what's even freakier about this, especially when you talk about these races, because they live much longer than we do. the Greys, the reptilians, the humans, the Greys especially. Whoever abducted your great-grandmother like 50 times removed is probably the same guy abducting you. They probably know more about your family than you'll ever know. More than that, if things like reincarnation are real or things like that, they're seeing it in real time because they're abducted, the next generation. So they would actually be seeing it in real time. So this is just an experiment for whatever they're doing. I mean, and the agendas are big and broad. Everybody in the beginning thought there was one agenda, but there's not. There's three main races that are here abducting, which are the Greys, reptilians, and humans. There's the tall whites who Charles Hall's introduced to all of us, which somebody in the 50s had talked about, but no one ever gave me really credence. There's the Browns, which we call the cleanup crew, which have a tendency to, what the best description of the Browns, or closest description of Browns I can tell you that you might see on TV would be in Travis Walton's, the ones that were dragging them around in the spaceship. That might be the closest. They're like little short, wrinkly, I don't know if they eat you or not, but it's some scary stuff, people. Then there's the light beings, which really don't visit here often, and when they do, that's usually for other types of reasons. And there's one other. Okay.
Well, have you ever actually spoke to Travis Walton, Joe?
Yeah, a couple of times. Matter of fact, we did a
authentic.
Travis, I'm gonna tell you, like I tell you, like Travis, like I told you about Charles. He believes it no matter what. Whether you do or not, he does. So when I voice stress, because Travis, I had a tendency, matter of fact, I'm going to be on Copal Green, which is the Rendlesham movie they're doing about Larry Warren. And I'm the one who did the voice stress analysis on Larry Warren. I'm not the one who did the polygraph. That's a lady out of the UK, but I did the original voice stress on him and Peter, actually. And so they asked me to come on and do it again. So the thing about it is, in Larry's case, he believes it. Charles Hall believes it. Travis Walton believes it. Now, see, I don't believe in one-time abductees. I don't think it's real. I don't think they ever abducted anybody one time. They take you pre-birth. They take you all through your life until at a point where they don't think they need you anymore. If you don't fit the program or whatever, they'll stop abducting you. But when you have kids, they'll come get your damn kids and take them. So they're ongoing, and they're really only abducting family lines. But people are like, well, that's crazy. Well, no, people, think about it. We're talking 100,000 years. We'll just say 25,000 years ago, they abducted 10,000 people. Do you know how much of the population that would be today in family lines?
Oh,
I mean, just think about it. I mean, it's an enormous amount of people. So they've got a big group to choose from. They're doing regular studies. And one of the other things, first thing we looked, we have abduction criteria for contactees, and we do some of it. We make about 50% we make public, and about 50% we keep to ourselves. But abduction criteria are things that you're looking for people to tell you when they're describing their alien abduction to you. First thing I want to know is are you empathic? And a lot of people don't even know what empathic means. A lot of people don't know what's going on. I find with contactees, a lot of times they're very empathic, and some of them send, some of them receive. But you'll get a person who all of a sudden she'll be standing there, he'll be standing there, they'll get sad or happy for no reason. You think they're going nuts. Well, no, because they're experiencing someone else's emotions. But in the same aspect, they can walk into a room sad or happy, and the whole room will feel like they did. Once a person realizes what that is, they can control that. It's less craziness in their head. There's a lot of other stuff too. We expect a lot of them to be telepathic. There's just things that we're going to be keywording on when we're listening to them talking about their alien abduction. And not all alien abductions are horrible. Unfortunately, the ones from pre-birth till about puberty, or none of them are bad. I haven't heard any kids or anything. Some of the kids get scared because they're aliens, but for the most part, most of the kids call them like my bug-eyed friends or my human friends or whatever. They don't really have any fear of them. But starting around puberty up until about age 30, age 28, that's when all the nasty stuff happens. That's when a lot of the breeding experiments go on. That's when a lot of let's see how far I can push the body. Let's see how far I can push the mind. There's a lot of these type of experiments goes on. But then it stops. Around 30, contact changes. It moves into something else. And it changes again around 40 or 50. They have us. They want us. They really want everyone involved in this. They would like everyone to be able to be involved in this in every way they want. If it was up to them, it would be an open project. But even they know our society's not ready for it. I hear people all the time, oh, you could tell Americans. You couldn't tell. Americans can't even agree on a damn president. You think they're going to agree on extraterrestrial aliens? Get the hell out of here.
Right.
Anyway it goes, it's going to be a nightmare.
I wanted to say this, going back to the Rh negative blood factor, women actually, like, let's say the guy is A positive and the girl is A negative, she actually has to get shots.
Well, they used to. They don't as much to now for some reason, but they used to, yeah. Somebody found an Australian guy. Go ahead.
I can't understand that. Why do you think, though, that they're not public? Like, they're not landing in mass. There's no mass landings or anything like that. Why do you think that is? Do you think they think they'll spook us? Or
yeah, they know they will. They know they will. We can't even handle seeing them in alien abductions, even after we've seen them for a while. Humans just aren't ready.
Right. And do you think they know that, and they're not going to not anything like this to happen?
Yeah, they somewhat, I don't want to say they respect the government, but since they have their own governments, I think they kind of, say, okay, well, look, we're just making things worse for these people. They really, in a lot of ways, they want this to work, but they know our government, everything our government's going to get it, they're going to turn into something for war, turn into this, turn for that. I mean, think about it. A lot of the technologies we're finding today were stuff that was invented at the end of World War II. Because war, we do invent a lot of stuff, but unfortunately during war, the good stuff we never get to use. It's being used for the stuff. So yeah, here we are 50 years later, we're starting to see the products filter out. It's a slow process. And then, what came from ET today and what came from our imagination. I don't want to say humans are stupid. I mean, we have some imagination. So I'm thinking some of the stuff we should be able to come up on our own with. But the thing that got me, as I had seen a picture, God, I was about 25, 26. I had seen a picture of a clip from Roswell, and there was 3 things in it. There was what we would consider today to be a microchip. These were things that were found at the Roswell crash. Some stuff that we would consider to be we would consider fiber optics today, and what might have been aircraft aluminum. Now, which none of this existed when the Roswell crash went down. All of which has existed now for 40 years. Did this actually come from Roswell, or was this natural progression and invention? Now, the thing about the microchip is that solid state. So we went from tubes, big, glass tubes, like usually in like an amp, they'd be 20, 30 tubes. A TV might be 40, 50 glass tubes, to a chip, to a processor. Bitty old chip, man. I mean, it's a little bitty thing. But there is something similar. They're both silicon. They're both made out of sand. One's glass, one's silicon, but they're the same substance. So was it actually an alien invention, or was it a natural progression for man? It's a big leap anyway you go. I mean, anytime you talk about going from them big ass glass tubes to a little square or rectangular, chip, it's a big leap. But you can't actually say, we can't just say aliens did it. We could have invented this stuff.
Right.
We aren't.
Interesting question for you. Do you believe, let's say, I know there's an asteroid named Apophis that it's going to come close to striking the Earth in 2029 or 2036. Do you believe that aliens have the power to actually prevent something like that from happening and might intervene in something like that happening? Or do you think they would just say, hey, this is nature, let it be?
Oh, I think they could stop it, but I don't think they will. Put it this way. Did they clean up Fukushima?
Very true. Very true. Very true. No, they did not.
Yeah. So, see, for me, this is how I look at this, and I'm pretty sure it's the way they look at it. First off, we can never look at aliens like we think. You guaranteed, first off, I think the youngest species we're talking about is like 500 million years old. The Greys is supposed to be over 1 billion, and they can live for millions of years. So they're going to view everything differently than we do. We have to view everything, first off, from a very finite position. We're dead in less than 100 years. We might stretch that, your generation might stretch it to 100. The great-great-grandkids might stretch it to 150. Maybe in 1 million years, we might stretch it further. But we're a long, long ways from here. These guys they upload themselves from their consciousness to the next body, and then on the way they go. Now, maybe we could figure that out. I mean, I know we're working on that. We're working on putting our consciousness on chips and then taking it from a chip and putting it into a new brain, like in a cloned body or a grown body of some sort. Something that doesn't have a consciousness. But we don't know. We're not even aware of that as far as I know of. But they are. So, I mean, for them, they just, it's funny because there's several sci-fi movies out there that use these premises, like, which one is it? Battlestar Galactica, because one when they die, their consciousness goes to the ship and then put in a new body. There's probably a lot of this, and it's probably something we'll adopt one day. I mean, like I said, it is things that we're working on today. But for them, they're going to look at the universe much different than we do. I mean, we got to think about you're only going to be here for 80 years, and they're not even thinking about it. They got plans that may last 50 lifetimes, our lifetimes, I mean. You know, I mean, whatever this project that's running on Earth right now, it's been going on at least 25,000 years, probably much longer. If the premises of what the not the Mayans, the Sumerians laid out is true, and then what the two cities we found, the Indian cities that date back about 10,000 years, it looks like we were here for much more advanced, much earlier than we thought we were. The two cities they found off because of the tsunami, they found two cities, one of which they believe was 200 to 350,000 people lived in, dating back about 12,500 years, which is an interesting date, but that's where all the monuments on our planet date back to. So it's an interesting thing that was even there. So it looks like we have more history than we realize. It's just like you know, my wife and I were talking about, you know, when the Mongols burned Alexander, the library in Alexandria. God knows what we lost in there. No telling what beings people had talked about and things we had seen and cures we'd heard of. Hell, they lost how to make Roman concrete, which is still up and running today.
I wanted to ask you, this is off topic, Joe, but we talked about death and all that, about our lifespan, how it's really short, you know, maybe get to 100 years if we're lucky. What do you think happens when we die? Do you think that that's it, lights out, boom, or do you think we actually maybe reincarnate?
I know there's a consciousness other than us. I know there's levels of consciousness. So I'm assuming something out there, but then there's the other problem. Which theory do you believe in? Is this one universe and no other universe, or do you believe in a multiverse? Because if there's a multiverse, there's no need for reincarnation. If there's not a multiverse, there is a need for reincarnation. As far as our souls and spirits learn, there would be a need for it. And the reason I say that is okay, in a regular universe, you die, you'd be reincarnated, you keep coming back, and eventually you can probably go live in other worlds and stuff as you got to certain evolutionary stages. But then if there's a multiverse, that means there's one of you in a billion different universes, which means each one of you is experiencing a different light. So when you all die at one time, you just snap back into one being. So there is no need, is there, for reincarnation. You can learn everything in the universe in one lifetime. Even though there's a billion of you doing it, still when you all die, you all come back to one consciousness. So it would be one lifetime.
Now, people want me to ask you this, and I mean, it's interesting. I've always wanted to know this too. Do you believe that NASA actually went to the moon?
Oh, I know NASA went to the moon. That's the easy part. But I'll tell you how you know, people. The easiest way for you to know this is, the very easiest way you know. You don't have to believe any other thing that you've ever seen. China and Russia would not lie for the United States. Both of them have orbited the moon. Yeah. China has actually posted pictures of the landing sites on the moon. So has Russia, by the way. Russia hated us when this was going on. If there would have been any way that they could have proved that this was a fake and could have embarrassed us in front of the world, they would have done it. More than that, it wasn't just the U.S. tracking these spaceships. Russia tracked them, China tracked them, but Australia tracked them, Japan tracked them, and we weren't friends with Japan back then. Well, yeah, we were. We'd already conquered them. But regardless, there was a lot of different people. You know, you might get the people who work direct for you to lie, but all these different astronomers, all these different radioscope people, there's just no way you can control all of them for a lie this big. They couldn't have all been. There's just no way you could have made all of them lie for you, and then keep the lie for all these years. That's too much for me to even believe.
How do you stop going to the moon, though? Do you think that that's maybe the aliens?
They told us to stay off the damn thing. That's why we didn't go back.
It's too much money.
No, actually, this is what's funny, people. In case y'all don't know this, after 18, 19, and 20 were paid for. Okay, Apollo 18, Apollo 19, Apollo 20 were bought and paid for, and the crews were trained. For some reason, at Apollo 17, we stopped. Now, the government's official explanation is we, the people, lost interest. That's why they quit going. Maybe, maybe not. You know, Apollo 13 was a scare, but we still, after that, we went 14, 15, 16, and 17, 4 more missions without any problems. So, I'm not buying it. Of course, Neil Armstrong said we were told not to come back.
That's something.
Yeah, and he said this on more than one occasion, by the way. He said we were told not to come back. And since then, a lot of other astronauts have come forward about what they've seen and experienced. Several astronauts have said they've seen things in the crater bases. A Chinese guy who had actually left and went to live in, he snuck out the country and went to live in the UK, said he was a satellite person for him. He said there's definitely some type, they thought it was an American base, by the way. The Chinese thought we had a big American base, and the dark side of the moon is not ours. Somebody else's. And it ain't the Russians either. So, so obviously, it has nothing to do with us.
Some people wanted me to ask you too. What was it that they wanted me to ask him? Sorry. Yes, the Bible. Okay. When it comes down to the Bible, okay, do you believe that back in the day that they were seeing aliens? Because you see all these writings in Ezekiel about all these chariots of fire and stuff like that, and they were calling them gods. Do you think that they were actually seeing extraterrestrials, aliens?
It's a good chance. You know, I actually lost a job one time because I said Jesus could possibly have been an astronaut. And,
you know what? I agree, dude. I agree.
It's well, it doesn't even matter if he's not. Regardless, you know, who he was. I mean, he portrayed this. If he was an astronaut, he portrayed this. So this is something they wanted to get going.
Right.
Regardless what was going on back then. But here's some weird stuff for y'all. If you do your history, you'll find out prior to Christ that we were, you know, they believed that the reptilians were the bearer of life and the good things, and these human deities were evil, you know, like jackals and stuff like that. So that was how it was. And then all of a sudden, 2,000 years ago, Christ came on the scene. And then the reptilians all became evil and the humans all became good. Coincidental? I don't know. I'm telling you, I don't trust in human aliens for nothing, people. Bottom line is they all had their own agendas, and the Greys kind of think of us as pets. The reptilians, for some reason or another, like us. We're like a kindred spirit to them. Out of all the races that mess with us, we're the most like them. We're this compulsive. They believe in one religion. They have one big ass religion that, like, and they have, most people don't realize it, but they have several big worlds. At least 2 homeworlds if you call Earth and the Draco system, and probably a good several hundred, maybe a couple thousand colonies. They're a big species, just like the other ones are. They've been around for a long, long time. And here we are inhabiting their planet as far as they're concerned. They were here first. But yet they can't throw us off. And bad part is for them, they were here 60 million years ago. They left, and some of them might have went underground. The human aliens showed up, created a race like us. Actually, the way it was described by the Sumerians is they called it the 7 creations of man. They tried like eagle-headed people and dog-headed people and all kind of crap, and then they came up with a race like us. Wasn't really a sentient race. It was just they kind of looked like we did. And then for some reason, the reptilians got irritated and started going stealing their women, raping and pillaging their women, bringing them back. The women started having children. Well, initially when I heard these stories, and David Icke's what got me interested in him, even though I don't agree with him a lot of stuff, it got me interested in these stories. I'm like, well, maybe they were coming out, you know, maybe it was like, you know, Black Betty had a child thing, you know, damn thing. Well, I was killing people when it came out of the stomach. It's not what it was, though. What it really was is the children being born were different in the fact that they wanted to know why the hell did they have to serve these masters? Why did we have to do this? Why are we plowing the fields? Why are we making the beer? Why in the hell are we doing this? Why aren't y'all doing this? Basically, there was a rebellion that started. What happened is, in case y'all noticed, every human on the planet has a reptilian section in their brain. According to the Sumerians, they interbred with our population, and that's the population that's here today. That human alien, reptilian alien, whatever the original thing we bred with was, whatever they used here to breed with was, that was it. And then the Greys introduced their DNA sometime later. But the species that's alive on this planet today has at least 3 types of aliens in them, and it might be the reason they're so interested in us. Because one day, think about it, you get the Greys, reptilians, and humans in you. Okay, the Greys are what really brought the light beings are really what brought the Greys to be anyway. So here we are, a developing species with all the mental faculties and all the stuff they do. Somewhere in our DNA, it's tucked away for all of this to come out of us. So not just in brain, but we body-wise, mind-wise, we could actually dwarf our creators. The only thing that we would probably be able to challenge would be the light beings, and even then, eventually, we would become them. So it might be why they want to keep an eye on us. I mean, we could become this race that could threaten all of them if we decided not to be a friendly, happy race.
Right. And we only got a few minutes left, Joe, so I wanted to get to more questions. Jen wants to know, what about the Mona Lisa alien, a female alien that was supposedly found on an Apollo 18 or 19 or something like that? I actually did do some research on that question, and I did come up with the YouTube video. It looks authentic. I don't know. It could be fake. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's probably old news to you.
Well, I've seen a couple of things like that I've often wondered about. Some stuff that was supposedly brought in from space, some stuff that was supposed to be held. You know, it's like the ones they found, those videos they found of that laboratory where the girl was taking pictures and they had the different alien corpses. Well, we found that was fake, but it took a couple of us to figure it out. In this case, I've heard of things like this. I just don't know if they're real. There's no corroborating stories, I guess.
Right. There's just no way to figure it out. And Mike wants to know, what did he say? I'm trying to read. Okay, he wants to know, what do you think is inside a black hole? Do you think it could be an entrance to where the aliens come from, like maybe a warp? I personally don't think that could be possible because even light can't escape a black hole.
But see, I agree that light can't, but there's these things that you get from contactees about that black holes here are stars on the other side. Because as all the energy is pressed into one spot, it ignites on the other side in another dimension. True, not true? Who am I? I have not a clue, to be honest with y'all. It's a feasible, it's a plausible theory. Is it a real one? And then there's things about the black holes in the center of our galaxies. These things are huge, people. I mean, these things are huge. I mean, I couldn't even really trying to put it into how size this thing is. So on the other side, what would that be? Like a giant, trillion mile across sun or something? So, I mean, I don't know how feasible they are, but it's looking more and more like there is a multiverse. We haven't proved it 100% by any means, but it's looking like there's a multiverse. It looks like the Big Bang wasn't exactly how things came to be, and it looks like the universe is a little tad bit older than we thought it was. We're learning stuff every day. It's just, in the grand scheme of a 14 billion year universe, we're a 2 million year old race. What the hell can we know? I mean, and it's like when you hear people, when you talk about these different consciousnesses, or when you hear people say, oh, they're sharing a consciousness with the light being great, that's impossible. There's just no frame of reference. It would be like us trying to go back and share a consciousness with a Neanderthal. There's just no frame of reference. Everything would be just foreign to us. We wouldn't understand anything we were seeing. I imagine there's lots of consciousness, and it's probably 5 or 6 levels at a time, like 2 levels below, 2 levels at high, and in the middle. And that's just how you work your way through it. But trying to put us on with races that are 1 billion years old and stuff, I just don't see that happening. I don't think the universe is that reckless, to be honest with you. I think the universe has a plan. For me, when people ask me all the time about this, do you believe there's a supreme entity out there? Yeah, I'm sure there is of some sort. More than likely, what really probably happened, something, someone, something, whatever, created the universe, and the universe probably took it from that point. I would bet you money that the universe is sentient in some shape or form. So are the galaxies, for that matter. I would bet you in some shape or form they're sentient. One, they have the ability to both create and destroy life on a regular basis, on a daily basis, for that matter. That's kind of like godlike abilities to start off with. They're hurling through space. They live 14 billion years, more actually longer than that. So I don't know. It's a good possibility that everything around us and we could simply be a cell inside the galaxy trying to figure itself out. Maybe, or more than that, maybe the universe has broke itself into pieces to make manifest to us so that we could help it figure itself out. It's so big that it needed us to help figure it out. Not just us, everybody. Who knows? There's so many great theories out there. I have to think that there's intelligence beyond belief out there.
And we got one more question here from Krista. She wants to know if all these different alien races have visited the planet and are visiting the planet, where are they? Where do they hide? That's a good question. Where are they?
Yeah, most of them probably aren't even on a planet. But remember, the planet's 3/4 water, and the oceans are so deep that even today there's things we just can't see down there. There's probably many facilities on the water, probably many facilities on the ground, but they don't even really need that. I mean, even the small craft could travel to the end of our solar system in a matter of minutes. So, we know that because of some NASA photos, and some people like Alfred Weber broke some photos of these big, huge black things that were parked next to the sun. These things were like the size of 2 or 3 times the size of Earth, but they look like they were man-made, or I shouldn't say man-made, but something of intelligence made them. It's a good thing that they're just bases sitting there, waiting, and they might park by the sun right there. That might be how they get their energy and their fuel and everything they need, but it's a good possibility that they just park them out there, every now and then. And that might have been what Nibiru was. Everybody always wants to talk about Nibiru. That might be what it was. 5,000 years ago, this thing might have came and parked next to the moon. They might have thought it was a damn another moon. But when people like to tell me Nibiru is 5 times the size of Earth and it passed, no, guys. Some 5 times past the Earth cannot pass by. If it does, it's going to shatter our planet. They ain't going to just shake it up. It's going to shatter it. So you can rule those kind of things out. And that, and the fact that the Chinese have been keeping accurate astrological records for 6,000 years, and it hasn't been seen in 6,000 years. So, you know what? If it did exist, maybe it's the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Maybe it got broke up coming through one time.
Right. I want to take one more question from Joe. He wants to know, do you think there's any way that the moon is actually artificial? That maybe
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yes.
That's a good question. You know, I've gotten many heated debates about this. I could go either way on this subject too, which is the fun part about this. There is evidence to suggest that it could be hollow and it could be artificial. There's also evidence because there's a map. It takes a little while to find, but there's a map of a section of the moon, of these mountain ranges, that actually is identical to a section of a canyon in the Pacific Ocean. So if you flipped it over and put them side by side, they would fit together. So it could have been a piece that broke off from Earth. What most people think the moon is, it was another big chunk of like planet coming by. It smashed into us. It hit us on one side and bulged it out on the other side and sent it out. Maybe that's true, but the problem is, that's a good theory. Don't get me wrong, people, and it's one you can buy. But there's been a couple of other problems. Sometimes when you ping the moon, it's like it's hollow.
Mm-hmm. They did that when they lifted off from the moon.
Yeah, a couple of times they've gotten these weird pings back from the moon. And another way you know people have been to the moon, ladies and gentlemen, you can actually today yourself, you can do this. You can shoot a laser beam. There's mirrors on the moon that reflects them back. That's how they know what the distance of the moon is. That's how they found out it moves away from us 2 inches every year. Moon's actually moving away from us. So I tell you, at one time it was much closer in the sky, man. It was like there.
That's crazy. I imagine when it gets way, way, way far away, what the climate will be like on here, man.
Well, you know, you lose tidal action. I mean, that's going to be the worst part.
Yeah.
Planet's going to go flat. But maybe, who knows? We might build a big, Death Star up there and put it in orbit or something. Well, we won't call it a Death Star. We'll call it something else. Or maybe we put some thrusters on the back of the moon, like what was that movie, 1999, where all atomic waste blew up. We're a very inventive species, and if we don't blow ourselves up, and if some godly way we can figure out how to be one government, so that we can, if you took right now, ladies and gentlemen, took all the money on the planet that's spent on the military, which is about $8 trillion a year, and dedicated that just to medicine or education, there is no idea. We would be 10,000 years more advanced. If you would have got rid of religion 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, we would be at least 10,000 years more advanced than we are today. And I'm not hating on religion, people. I think it serves a purpose. But sometimes it has to be a fine line, and you can't let religion stomp out technology. And that's what happens.
Joe, I've been away from religion over my last few years of research, man, and actually studying the Bible. And I'm not downing on any Christians or anything. Hey, they could do what they want. That's fine with me. But honestly, man, when it comes down to it, I just that it's a book for control and.
Okay, guys. Before we go, I gotta say something before we go for sure. I had Heather Wade on my show Wednesday night for Midnight in the Desert. They're going to invade Area 51.
Oh.
This is going to happen in June sometime now. You can go to Midnight in the Desert website and look for Michelle. She's the producer. And just email her that you want to be involved. She will put you on a special email list for anybody who wants to go or get information about what's going to go on and how it's going to get there. That's how it's going to all be handled. None of this is going to be talked about on the air because they want the element of surprise on what location they're going to go to. They want to get a big crowd. I'm going there to work press myself. And this is in Nevada. Matter of fact, because I was in Nevada, I was at Area 51 last year. I went to the UFO Utah Festival to speak. So I went and checked out the Area 51.
Joe, before we go, what's your website, man? How do people reach you? Give all that good stuff, and we'll have to call it a night, bud.
Okay. Best way to find me is www.uprntalkradio.com, or just type in my name, Joe Montaldo. But, if you're just looking for us, United Public Radio or UFO Paranormal Radio, either one of them will bring you to all of our websites. Of course, if you've been abducted and you're looking for someone to talk to about your abduction, it's www.icar1.com. That's the International Community for Alien Research. So you can reach us there. It usually takes, though, guys, I'll be honest, usually right now we're running about 3 months back on return. So don't get upset. It just takes a while, man, because there's a lot going on. But yeah, that's the best ways to find us. And I'm on every Wednesday night on UFO Undercover. You can come by and check me out. And if you're just looking for everyday local news, we do that Monday through Friday now.
Hey, Joe, sounds great, but I'll tell you what, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and we will talk again soon, I promise.
Oh, and y'all can see my lovely face and Shawn's, because he didn't know it, but I hooked this into the YouTube feed, and I'm on camera too right now. So you can go see both of our lovely faces on our YouTube feed. Like and subscribe, people.
Hey, sounds great, buddy. I'll talk to you later, Joe. Thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, peace, bud.
Think you're too busy to train for a new career? Virginia College offers career training designed for you. The family provider, the busy mom, the time crunched, the double shift worker. Whoever you are, no matter how busy you are, if you want a new career, a better life, we can help make it work. With work, with family, with life. Get started today at Virginia College. Visit vc.edu. Learn at the speed of life.